This video is boring, but it will get you customers so fast, it'll feel illegal. And so I'm going to be talking about the 5 steps you need to do to cut your sales cycles by 50% within 30 days. So I don't know how much of you track your actual sales cycles, but this is really, really important to understand to make sure you make more sales within a short amount of time, right? Because the guy who's making 100K a year and the guy who's making 100K a month, they're both making the same amount of money, but the denominator, the difference is how fast they can sign those people. Okay. And so hopefully, if you stick through these 5 steps, I'm going to give you a bonus step at the end as well. You can make sure you can sign a lot of clients so fast. Okay. But first, to do this, you need to figure out that there are 3 important things that you must understand to make this process work. Okay. And these things are incentive, information, and friction. Okay. And what do I mean by this? We want to increase incentive, we want to increase information, and we want to increase friction, decrease friction, sorry. Now, when it comes to incentive, what do we mean by that? Okay. So we know that human beings are creatures who need some sort of reason to do anything, right? They need to be prompted to take action, right? And so it is very important to understand that incentive is very, very big part of this process because human beings are latently lazy, right? And that's not a bad thing because we're trying to conserve energy, but whatever, we still need incentive to actually take an action. So we need to understand, okay, hey, how can I bake in incentive into my process? Information is the second one. That one is very, very important as well because some people, even if you push them, even if you incentivize them, they will not take action because they don't have the right information in their heads right now. Okay. And so you see that there's a very particular connection between incentive and information. Okay. Because incentive without information will not guarantee action, and information without incentive will not guarantee action as well. So you've already understood the main concepts for cutting sales cycles. But there's one more thing you need to understand, and that is friction. Okay, and by friction I mean some some people actually will not follow through the whole process that you outline for them due to a lot of reasons. Okay, things get dropped in the middle, and so you need to figure out a way on, hey, how can I increase the amount of friction that is happening through this process? Okay, and I'm going to be walking you through exactly what these things are right now. Okay, so like I said, incentive is a reason for action, objections, information. Part of information are objections and information on the process that you're taking them through. Okay, friction is little inconvenience. I like to call them little inconvenience, even though they seem little. They are friction nonetheless, and no friction is little because it just could drop the ball and make you lose that lead in the end, right? And so, if you have actually this idea of what you need to do, and I want to give you right now the exact steps, exact 5 steps you can use to leverage this process today, right now. Okay. And it's a 5 step process. The first thing is track. Okay. So in anything you want to do, you want to start by tracking. Okay. Because when you have data, it's the moment you can make informed decisions. And when you do not have data, is the moment you just make decisions based on emotions, which will not lead you to where you want to be. Okay. So which person would you want to be? Do you want to be the person who has the information, the right information to make decisions and all the time? Or do you want to be that guy who just makes decisions based on what he thinks, based on guesses? I'm gonna let you guess which one of those two will succeed faster in life. Okay. So that's why it's very important to track data. And in this process, in this specific process, in fasting your sales cycle, in shortening your sales process, you need to track 4 main drivers, 4 main KPIs to actually make this work. Okay. Volume. Okay. The first is volume. Volume just means how many things or how many opportunities are you putting in the top of the funnel. Okay. How many things are you introducing into the system? And the second thing you want to track is the value. What is that individual thing that you just put in the top of the funnel? How much is it worth? What is its value? Do you have a lot of small things, or do you have a few big things, right? You want to make sure you know that. Velocity, it's also another important factor, right? How fast are these deals, or how fast are these opportunities flowing through your pipeline? And the final one is conversion, right? And conversion just basically means, after mapping out the process, what is the percentage of each and every single stage in the process, and that should be tracked. Okay, so if you can track all these things, you can be literally ahead of 80% of the competition right there. Okay, now the second thing that's going to give you a very big competitive edge is clarifying your ICP. A lot of people sleep on this, and they just don't think that it has any impact when it comes to shortening sales cycles, right? And it's just funny to me, because when you can clarify your ICP is the moment you can deeply talk to one person. And when you talk to one person, it is when your message is the most resonant. Okay, when you talk to everybody is the moment you talk to nobody, right? And so that is why you need to clarify ICP, and you need to create a criteria to actually filter out, these are the people that I'm going to work with. Okay, or you can define your own blue ocean, which means you can create your own category. But in any case, you want to define an ideal customer profile, an ideal client profile that will meet your product's requirements to actually get results for those people. Okay. And once you can dial in this process and divide more and more, okay, until you actually get into a very specific avatar, then you do not move from this process. Okay. And once you do that is when you map the process. Okay. The process of where your customers come from and then where they end up until the deal is closed. And these things are based on stages, okay, that need to occur to actually keep this process flowing. Okay. And you need to map out, okay, where will this person go after step 2? What are we going to do? Okay. What are we going to do after step 4? And you need to actually map this process out as clearly as possible so that it can get out of your head and onto a paper so that other people can see it as well, and comment on how fast this thing could be, on how redundant some steps are, because that is one of the things when I said friction is, this is where it's going to be. Okay, fourth step is automate. Okay, and this is very important because you need to understand that people who are moving through this process, okay, are in different times, right? They're in different times. They're in different state of minds, and somebody might start at one and pause at number three and come back again after some time and go to number four, right? And when this happens, you need to have a certain way of communication that is consistent, that person can remember. Oh, okay, I remember this type of communication. Oh, I remember this X, Y, and Z, right? And that is why you need to be consistent, because the moment you're consistent is when you can make sure that this process can flow as easily and as smoothly as possible. Okay, but when I say automate, I mean that you need to leverage some sort of tools to make sure that you're doing this properly. Okay, the best way to do it, of course, is a personalized approach, but sometimes that could get a little bit too clunky in terms of headcount, and so that is why I recommend the automation piece. Okay, but these personalized automations, these follow-ups that nudge people through the next steps of the process, they should be value led. Okay, that is a very, very important part. Okay, even though it's automated, doesn't mean you get to say, hey, your meeting for X, Y, and Z is coming up. No, that is a very selfish follow-up. Instead, you want to make it a value-led follow-up, because you want to remind that person why they actually want to attend the next stage in your sales process. Okay, because each and every single stage in your sales process is a sale of its own. Okay, and when you think of each stage as a sale of its own, then you start to think about the benefits of each stage. And once you know the benefits of each stage, that is when you can get people sold in each and every single stage. That is a very powerful strategy. Okay, and so you need to be consistent. You need to make it personalized at the same time. Okay, just because it's automated doesn't mean it's not going to be personalized. You can, of course, make it personalized. The last step is advancing the steps. Okay, some people might get stuck. Like I said, one of the biggest ways you can use as an offer owner to actually get people from one step to the next step is urgency. Okay, and you should not be there faking urgencies, because everybody knows that tactic, but you should have a very good reason. Okay, you should outline your sales process in a way where it could benefit the lead, to actually go through that process as fast as possible, because as much as your product will change their lives, your sales process should change their paradigms. Okay, you should come to that same level of conclusion with that same aura of rigor to actually keep those people, to care about them, to go through the sales process. And you're not, making them hurry, or you're not, creating this fake sense of urgency for yourself, but you're doing it for them. Does that make sense? So you need to bake that in within the process. Okay. One more thing that is very important is setting expectations at each and every stage. Okay. Like I said, if you treat each and every single stage as a sale of its own, then each and every single stage will have an expectation of its own. There's a very famous word in large companies called the BAM fam, which is a very important concept when it comes to setting expectation at each and every single point of the sales process. Okay, so if you leave a lead in a sales process, confused of what to do next, then you just lost that lead. You just don't care, right? That's probably going to be reflective of how you're going to treat them when they become a customer. So you want to dial that process in as much as possible. Okay, so that being said, these 5 steps, it is going to fasten your sales cycles by 50%, if you do this right. Okay, because it all comes down to the process. Okay, so when you do this right, like I said, you're going to have a calendar packed like this. Okay, which is going to be characterized by 3 things. Number one, you're going to be able to qualify leads thoroughly, because you're such in an abundant state that you don't need leads. Okay, when you don't need leads, that's when you get an abundance of leads, which is a very funny paradox when it comes to that, but it is a very good place to be in. You're going to need to hire a sales team, a closer, an appointment setter to handle all the lead flow that's been coming in. And last but not least, you might go to the bonk jail for signing too many customers so fast. So, um, so if this was helpful, any helpful for you, be sure to leave a like, and peace.